All right, this is the postmortem for the November 10th event where the supermarket CLA features went missing. Uh, I'm going to be your host today for anybody out there that's watching this later. Let me go ahead and share my screen. Okay, that's the wrong button. There we go. All right. So this gist, or gist rather, is public, and I'll link this when I eventually do a follow-up. So at Chef, we start every postmortem stating the following. This is a blameless postmortem. We will not focus on the past events as they pertain to could have or should have. 3, all follow-up action items will be assigned to a team or individual before the end of the meeting. If that item is not going to be top priority leaving the meeting, don't make it a follow-up item. All right, so digging in, I was the incident leader because the person that would have normally taken the IC was busy at the moment, so I took on the incident commander role or incident leader role. The issue was that the CLA handling mechanisms, including the query bot, were both missing from the UI, and we weren't seeing pull requests being labeled. Does anyone draw issue with that? Is that description okay? Okay. Seeing nods. All right, all times UTC, and I didn't specify a date because they all occurred on the 10th of November. At 2025, Brian McClellan, BTM, notices an issue and tries to raise it in the Gitter chat for Supermarket. At 2033, BTM reaches out to Christopher Weber, C. Weber, to notify that the CLA stuff is missing. Stuff is a technical term. 2036, discussion begins in the operations channel about the missing CLI stuff. At 2040, the decision is made to escalate as an incident. At 2041, C. Weber assumes the role as IC, or Incident Commander. At 2042, the incident is announced. As a side note, please stop me if you have any concerns with what is being said. At 2042, Nathan Smith, NL Smith for future discussion, begins looking at the features that are enabled and disabled, specifically in prod. At 2042, support is notified. At 2048, NL Smith confirms that the .env is correct. At 2049, he confirms that the Rails console shows the features are enabled. At 2052, Mark Harrison, MH, begins verifying that there wasn't a Redis issue, which in hindsight, we already knew because of the way rollout works, but that's right. 2056, there was a supermarket app test role in play in Garrison. Works to verify that this isn't part of the issue. 2057, Mark verifies that there have been no cache events. At 2101, Nathan leaves for another meeting. At 2107, Mark verifies that the prod logs look fine. At 2113, Josh Black, or Jay Black in the future, confirms the issue is with GitHub not being enabled in the features. At 2114, Jay Black restores contributors tab in prod. At 2115, the incident is resolved. And at 2121, the status site was updated that the incident was resolved. The root. Does anyone have concerns, issues with the timeline? Seeing shaking of heads to indicate no, they don't have issues. We'll continue. The root cause, and I hate the term root cause, and I'm going to have to submit something to say we should use a different word than that.
The proper phrase is contributing factors.
Okay. I'm going to submit a pull request to the template to fix that. So the, in fact, that should go on the corrective actions.
I'm just going to do it right now. Keep
Thank
talking.
you very much. Okay. So the root cause, or contributing factors, the GitHub feature was not in the enabled state, causing the contributors tab to go away. The stabilization steps that were taken, The Rails console was used to manually enable the feature. Just for a little bit of background for anybody that's watching this video, rollout is used as part of Supermarket, and it is it's a library, so you can actually make a call to the console to enable or disable, and that state is actually kept in Redis, which is why the discussion about Redis earlier. And then finally, the production vault item was updated to add the features. They add the feature to the enabled features list. Any disagreement on the stabilization steps, or is that basically what happened?
So was GitHub a new feature? Or like, how was it disabled?
We had split that out. So originally there was just one CLA feature, and that controlled all of it. And then we decided it would be advantageous to separate GitHub integration from the CLA functionality in case someone wanted to use GitHub but have CLA stuff turned off.
Yeah, for those that are probably running Supermarket and behind their firewall or something.
Right, that makes sense.
So, in Joshua, this is something maybe we should talk offline, but it would be interesting, like, this talks about how we fixed it, but it doesn't really, oh, I guess it goes in corrective actions. Never mind. Disregard. Okay, so impact. The contributors tab, the CCLA, ICLA signups, and CLA verification. A pull request was down from approximately 2014 11:06 at 23:30 UTC, so basically 3:30 on Thursday PST, until 2014 11:10, so Monday at 21:15 when this was fixed. And those times are UTC, so that would have been roughly 1:15 on Friday PST. So let's talk a little bit about corrective actions. Not an immediate corrective action, but something worth discussing. I think one of the bigger takeaways for me, and Josh Black, I'd be interested to hear your thoughts. A side of me feels like this, it would have been beneficial if we were deploying more frequently, because I think we had forgotten that this feature change happened, and as a result, we missed looking for it after we got the deploy right.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So I guess, yeah, no, we'll deploy more frequently.
Where do we have a list of all the available feature flags? Do we have a list of all the available feature flags? Because I was looking at it and I was like, yep, that looks right. But like if I would have remembered that there was a feature flag called GitHub, for where all the feature flags are, I would have been like, oh yeah, GitHub's not there. But then like I left and Josh came back and was like, oh yeah, GitHub's not there.
So I just added that to my list as we're documenting all the things to add that. And also, this is something we just haven't, we were good about with the API, but we weren't super great about with the actual front end of the site and the configuration of the site, because there weren't docs already, to go ahead and update the documentation as we go. So, Josh,
now that I think about it, if you look in the attributes file in the Omnibus package, I think they are listed out there. So we should probably like put those somewhere easier to find as well.
Yeah, I'm prepping docs to make this more usable behind the firewall, so that's where that should go. I think just kind of a bigger picture point is once we have docs up, we should absolutely work towards that's what I'm looking for here. Making sure as part of our process when we push through a pull request that it updates the appropriate documentation. So there was a comment from IRC. So Brandon Burton Solars asks, do we have deployment lines on our metrics charts? That's probably a good point. To be frank, because of my role, I don't even know where to go look for charts for Supermarket. Do we have charts for Supermarket?
We have graphs and we have a dashboard. There's in our we have a operational documentation repository that has information about Supermarket specifically, with how to troubleshoot things when things are unhappy.
Okay.
That's an internal thing that we haven't published externally since it's the way that we run our internal infrastructure.
Yeah. Oh, that's a good point. I do like the idea of that's definitely not a corrective action, but we should definitely make sure that we have a good way to go back and look at when the last deploy was. And I
have a knife plugin that can help with that.
Yeah. So we just need to make sure that the documentation gets updated there. So I guess I can do that. All right. There's a side of me that wants to say we should be adding monitoring here. Like, we should be checking to see if the contributors mechanism is there. Like, to verify that that feature is enabled, since it can be toggled off. But I don't know, I know I'm not the person to do that work, but who would do that work, and what would that kind of a check look like?
That'd be either front end or ops would implement that, depending on how best to determine whether that's actually a thing that's enabled is something I'm not clear on.
And would we only be checking on CLA stuff, or would we be making that check on every feature flag that you could turn on or off?
Right.
Would that have caught this?
So the feature flags are enabled via what, role set attributes, or are they in a data bag?
They're in the vault, yeah.
So they're in a data bag. So the monitoring could just pull that information and know which feature flag should be enabled. Okay, this data bag says these feature flags should be enabled. Are they actually enabled? Would be a really rudimentary, easy check to do that we could use this config management system that we have to integrate those together.
That wouldn't have actually caught this issue, though.
Yeah, I don't think that would have addressed any of the real problems. I mean, really, as much as I hate to say it, like the way that would be interesting to pull this would be to have curl each of the nodes looking to see if it returned a 200 or a 400 for the contributors page, which
That's a really simple one.
yeah, it seems it is really simple, and I mean it would.
Would it be reasonable to assume that we could add that to the status, the health check of the application, like slash API slash v1 status, I think it is, that we would we could have it list which features are enabled.
But again, that wouldn't fix this. Oh, that wouldn't have caught this issue.
Yeah, I think there's two separate problems here, right? There's the what does the web application believe is going on right now, i.e. what features are enabled or disabled, and then there's the question of if I go to the website, is it working? So I think really I can envision a check. In fact, I know exactly what this check should look like. So my question to the ops folks in the room is, if I were to go write a check, because I have a good feeling as to how this would look, would I just deploy that via Sensu? And I don't understand how that process works, but if I worked with someone in ops, would they be willing to help me fix that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm assuming the check that you're talking about there would be like check this page, make sure it returns a 200.
Yeah, 200 and has this element on the page, like old school, like check HTTP, check underscore HTTP Nagios style.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We need to look and see if we've got something like that already in Sensu. I assume we do. And then yeah, we can get deployed.
Cool. So you want to pair on that?
Sure.
Okay.
In addition, do we actually want to have monitoring of what feature flags are enabled? Yes, that wouldn't have caught this issue, but it would catch a feature's been disabled when it shouldn't have been.
I would agree with that. So let's do this then. Add
They'd be two separate things.
yes. Okay. Add check to verify control.
So one thing I'm a little confused about is
That's true, a little bit, yeah.
GitHub was disabled, but the CLA feature was not disabled, but the contributors tab went away.
We have good thinking.
Is that supposed to happen? I mean,
Yeah, because it was decided that for the contributors tab to show up, CLA and GitHub both had to be enabled. So, I mean, that decision was made when we separated GitHub out into a separate feature flag.
Yeah, because the way with the design of Supermarket as it stands today, you can't do the contributor stuff without GitHub integration. That will change at some point later on in concept, or could change in concept.
well, and you can't. You can't. If there are existing contributors, though, like they still exist. Like if you have GitHub on and then contributors happen and then you turn GitHub off, like it probably disables like the ability to do some stuff with them, but it doesn't stop them from existing. And there's nothing about GitHub that makes it necessary to have GitHub enabled to look at the existing contributors, I guess.
That makes sense. So my question to you, Nathan, is that something that is a immediate corrective action, like it's high priority, or is that something that should just go onto our backlog for Supermarket?
Yeah, I think it can just go in the backlog. I mean, it seems like whether or not GitHub have as narrow as an effect as possible and not cascade out into this.
Agreed. So can you
yeah, it can go in the backlog.
Can you please create the ticket in the backlog for that? I'm not going to put it here, but you can probably best describe what that needs to look like.
Sure.
I feel like that covers the major things. Other things, and one of the things I appreciate working at Chef is that I can be as open and honest even with people watching. From the IC perspective, for me, a corrective action is I'm going to go add a couple of open a pull request with a couple of updates to the IC process. Like we should have a standard Zoom room set up already.
We already do now.
Or is that already done and I missed the? Oh,
that was a corrective action from a previous postmortem.
Oops, I was on mute. We have that. We have a Zoom room, and the incident response and postmortem documentation has been updated as of a couple days ago.
Sweet. Cool. I didn't get a chance to go to the other postmortem recently, so cool. Then I think I will just go make a point to review that and see if there's anything else I can add. But as we make that process better,
Mhm.
I think everybody benefits. So cool. Are there any other things that people have concerns about, want me to add? Think things we didn't talk about that we should have talked about? Hearing nothing, I'm going to update the gist, and we'll come back over here. All right. Well, I think that does it for us today. Thank you for everyone out there that watched along, and thank you for my team for participating. I think that does it. Thanks.